on this presentation real quick so we can get that back up and going. My apologies, Jeff. We're good? Okay.
It's okay, I understand.
All right, it's up and working now, so right when I say it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So can we kind of start back on this slide real quick? I don't think it was able to get onto that. Thank you.
You bet. And sort of like sitcoms where there's a live audience and sometimes they see more than one take two. So here we are. We must follow particular rules and goals as we go through this process. And the number one rule is we're attempting to have equal population within the 6 districts. The courts have allowed a 10% deviation overall, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But as one who tries to draft maps, you will find that it's not as simple as just drawing lines across the city to create districts. If it would be only that simple, but we have to use census blocks, and census blocks are almost like snowflakes. They come in very different sizes and shapes based on the population, geography, etc. So you'll find some really interesting census blocks, for example, along Bear Creek or along Highway 99 or along the railroad tracks. And then you'll find rather larger ones where there might be limited population. So, and we can't split those census blocks when we're doing this process for the city of Merced. We also must follow the Federal Voting Rights Act. We want to make sure we have no discriminatory practices. One of the ways we can do that is to make sure we don't dilute the voting strength of the protected class. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And then we can have no racial gerrymandering. So that's federal laws. So if you're attempting to draw a map or understand the process, that takes precedent over anything else we do. Then we shift into California's laws, and under the Fair Maps Act, we must follow 4 particular criteria, and they must be followed in this order. We want to have our districts be geographically contiguous to the extent possible. We do not want to divide neighborhoods or communities of interest. We want to have easily identifiable boundaries. And if you're a resident of the city of Merced, that's pretty easy to do. And like a lot of the cities in the Central Valley, there are fairly easy identifiable boundaries in the cities there. And we want our districts to be compact. We don't want to have interesting tentacles reaching out from one district to another. That just begs to question political gerrymandering. And we know that we shall not favor or discriminate against a political party in this process. So when we're thinking about drawing maps or we're questioning why a map might look a certain way, we must follow census blocks. And if you stay all the way through the end, I'm going to give you an example of what it looks like and how to draw a particular map and how it's not quite as easy as you might think. Oh, and by the way, you have to have equal population, the number one thing in this whole process. So under the 2020 census, the city went through this process in 2015, 2016. And while it did during that time period, it had to use census data from 2010. Well, here we are. We have the 2020 census data that came out late, obviously, due to the pandemic. And then California adjusts those data by taking all those in the California state prison system and adjusting those numbers based on where the inmates may have resided in what jurisdiction. So who knows? Well, I mean, I don't mean that who knows. I'm just talking generically that a number of jurisdictions could be impacted one way or another with respect to the final census numbers. So the final census numbers for the city of Merced, it shows that we have a deviation. If you look at the far right-hand corner, 3 cells down, it says 27.54%. We have to have that 10% or less overall. So the numbers at the top there represent the districts, and the ideal per district is 14,447. So if you're looking at District 1, it came in with 15,145, and it's overpopulated by 698, or 4.83%. So how do we get that 27.54% number? Well, we take the largest number, and in this case would be District 6 at 15.88. And then we take the largest negative number, which would be in District 3, which is negative 11.66. Add those two together and you get the deviation under the 2020 census for the city. So we must redistrict. Part of the redistricting, as I'd mentioned, I'm going to go back a couple of slides. Number 2 on the Fair Maps Act is to the extent possible, not to divide neighborhoods and communities of interest. And the City of Merced staff has done an outstanding job, along with the commission, and providing outreach. You can see on the social media, on the website, and having this workshop and the other workshop to try to get data from residents with respect to defining neighborhoods and to defining communities of interest. In fact, there's on the website, you can submit emails to the city clerk, and all that information will come back to me as we look at some of your thoughts. So what are some of your neighborhoods? So what are the dividing lines? And as you know, it's easy, fairly easy for Merced. We have some very popular roads and Bear Creek, et cetera, neighborhoods, downtown area that easily can help define neighborhoods. The same with communities of interest. These are areas with shared social or economic interests. Some use examples of like homeowners associations or downtown neighborhood association in this case, or say multi-family properties like i.e. apartments, complexes, etc. But the definitions of communities of interest may not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. So from all the public hearings, from the first workshop, from emails, we have received a number of data points that help guide us with respect to possible neighborhoods and communities of interest as the commission and council take into consideration when they're looking at the criteria of equal population following the Federal Voting Rights Act, making sure that the districts are geographically contiguous. And then they could take these particular data points into consideration when looking at selecting maps to move forward and to eventual adoption. Hopefully, in addition, that it's helping folks who are attempting to draft maps will take these particular data points into consideration as well. These points were shared by members of the community. They come with value and with respect. Here's a second page, because we've gathered quite a bit. And it gives you an idea of some of the thoughts that have been shared. So for tonight, I'm going to take a pause, and in the chambers and online, at this point, it looks just like I'm the only one online. Hopefully it's not because of me. We're going to take testimony if anybody wants to add any, that something might be missing from those two previous slides. And I'm going to hand it over to the city clerk at this point.
Do we have any members of the audience that want to add anything to our communities of interest that we have already listed on here? Okay, write that.
Would you like me to read it out loud?
Jeff, is there any way you can kind of make that screen a little bit bigger of the presentation?
And can you increase the percentage that we can see?
I just thought
I'll read it.
question.
I'll read it for the record. The airport industrial area, Applegate Park, Bear Creek as a potential midline, Campus Parkway area, different city schools seen as civic centers, communities north of Yosemite Parkway, the Bird Streets is what they were called, Courthouse Park, Crookshank, Chenoweth, Burbank, Peterson schools, downtown B&S, it's supposed to be B and SF up to Bear Creek, natural north boundary of District 3, Highway 99 and Bear Creek south boundary, downtown Merced area, downtown neighborhood association, Main 18th, 19th, elementary school attendance boundaries, Givens, Charles Wright schools, Golden Valley Neighborhood Association, south of Golden Valley High School, Greenbrier Historic Downtown Association, Intact Downtown, and Loughborough. Was there a second slide? Main Street Association, Merced College, College Streets, Merced College area, Merced Mall area, Muir Wood, North Merced Schools and Merced College, north/south boundary at Bear Creek, Old Town, Ragsdale Community, G Street, Bear Creek, Santa Fe, and Glen, South Merced surrounding churches, South Merced Circle around Tenaya, South Merced Coalition, African American Church locations, south of Bear Creek and end of Bear Creek, old family residences down to 18th Street, R Street, Highway 59, south of Childs, east of Parsons, new housing over the last 15 years, Spaghetti Acres, University area. And one more slide. Yes, Jeff? That's it.
So now we're looking for any input from the public to add to this. Thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Good evening, Mike Harris, Mondo Drive. Bear Creek, I don't think we consider it as much a midline. The people who live there were one block off of it, and it's more of a creek community. When we go walking the creek, we go up the south side, come back the north side. I personally consider everybody around the creek as our neighbors. So I'd be more interested in that as a community of interest. Thank you.
Perhaps for clarification purposes, since it was summarized, I believe in the letter or the comments that were written or read into the record from a letter, it was noted that the comments were that they believed the downtown district to be a natural boundary of Bear Creek, if I recall correctly. So I just wanted to make that a clarifying point.
I'm Diana Odom-Gunn. Did you mention Farrens Park?
I don't think it's on the list, but we can also put any regional parks of interest. Would you mind noting that, Jeff?
Yes, I'm writing as the comments are being made.
Do you have any other comments? Hey, Jeff, I believe that's all the comments that we have.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. As I've mentioned, the staff has done a great job in the commission and getting information on the neighborhoods and communities of interest for the city of Merced. The next piece I'm going to talk about, and if there's interest, and I will not be offended if anybody gets up to leave, there's still time to draw maps. We had a deadline for January 7th, but we're extending it. We do have to have a hard deadline this weekend for the upcoming commission meeting. But here on the redistricting website that the city has, and I even know if you look on the city's homepage today, you'd see a big advertisement about the redistricting process. But you go through on its separate redistricting website, and it has a number of tabs, and one of the tabs is to draw a map. And one can submit a map using their own software. And we'll do anything, even if it's a napkin, we'll do our best to represent your thoughts. And if I have questions and if I have your email address, I'll reach out to you, as I have done with some of the residents throughout this process. Then we also have a participation kit that is essentially, you can color in the areas and count the numbers of the folks in the particular districts, the 6 districts that you would like to see go through, or you can use an Excel spreadsheet that will help you. You can tell the Excel spreadsheet which population unit goes into what district, and the data will be all calculated for you. It's a pretty cool tool. Those particular pieces are then emailed to me from city staff. and then I process those particular pieces through our system, Calipers, Maptitude for online redistricting. Then there's another tool, it's called Dave's Redistricting. It's become a popular tool because it's actually really easy to use. I say that, but like anything in life, you have to follow some steps until you figure it out. And once you get beyond those particular steps, you'll find its general ease. And it's highly recommended that if you want to use Dave's Redistricting, also known as DRA 2020, to follow the instructions. I think there's 19 steps. They go pretty quickly. All of a sudden you'll have a map that you can play around with. Then I go to the final slide before I go into showing you Dave's Redistricting. Stay connected. I mentioned about the city's website. They've done an outstanding job again. I can't say enough about the City of Merced staff and commission. I work all across the state of California and the state of Arizona, and this has to be in the upper echelon of staffs and commissions that have really done an outstanding job with respect to the outreach. So now I'm going to go to the page here live, and I'm going to make sure that you can see it. I want to ask the city clerk if the redistricting page is on the monitor.
It is.
Oh, thank you. So I'm on the redistricting website for the city. I'm going to go to draw a map. And then, as I mentioned, there's the instructions. I can't explain this enough. To open that up, and then it'll say in a few seconds you're going to go to a website that happens to be the National Demographics Corporation website, and it gives you those steps that I was talking about. Okay, and you can actually print this out, and you can follow the steps to start going through the process of creating a map. It's really simple. I like it because on my end, it takes about 5 minutes to process, because all I do is take your URL and create an Excel file from it, drop it into our system, and I just build 6 districts based on your input that you wanted. So I'm going to go back out. Now I'm going to open up Dave's. You can open it up on either one. These two are the same. Dave's Redistricting, DRA 2020, are one and the same. So I'm going to open it up. It's going to say, I'm going to transfer to another website. If you don't have the patience, you can click to the next line. If you don't have an account, most people don't, you can just sign up to get one. That process, excuse me, you'd have a login or a sign up tab up here, upper right-hand corner. Because I've been logged in since September, I don't have to do that process. So I'll go over to the next part, and it would have maps. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back. I'm skipping ahead. Right over here, upper left-hand corner, I'm clicking on the menu. Then it says maps. Right here on the left-hand side menu. My apologies, because I'm used to just seeing maps up here in the upper right-hand corner, and I just click on that. But following the steps, I click on maps. And then you're going to see a list of maps. And what we're going to look for is Merced. Now, you probably won't have this list because you haven't, in all likelihood, drawn any maps. But I've had other communities where one individual has submitted 4 different versions. Great job, individual. But when they open it up, they're going to see all the maps that they have created. So if I was just starting this and this was a blank screen, I type in Merced, and you can see Merced City Council blank template. And I'm going to click on that, and you're saying, well, how do you open it? Well, you can double click on it, or you can, come on. One of the things about Dave's is sometimes it's notoriously slow. I am not using dial-up at my home. This is one of Dave's issues. Because it's so popular, it's struggling with the, yes, I will wait, Dave. It's struggling to catch up with everybody that's using Dave's. This is a reality, folks. So please don't get frustrated when you say it's not working. Oh, that Tilton guy from National Demographics, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Nothing's showing up. This does happen. There we go. So you have the blank template, and there's a process that I'd like for you to follow. Is I'm going to go back to the maps again because I skipped a step. Merced City Council blank template, you want to hit duplicate, okay? That's an important piece. And then it's going to take time to open up that duplicate piece. Again, because likely lots of people are doing it right now throughout the nation. This is not just for local jurisdictions, this is also for state and other types of folks. So there's your map right there, the duplicate. Now you can open it up and it's gonna it came quickly. One of the first things you want to do is to change the name. So click on it and you want to change the name, and we're going to just call it Merced Workshop for tonight. There it is. It's changed. All right. So they have these areas here on the left. These are these represent the districts, the 6 districts, the colors do, of for the city of Merced. There's overlays, and again, the instructions will tell you all about this, which ones to select, city lines, whichever lines. You see, I hit the city lines, and you can see like Tuttle came out. I think that's, I can't remember what's over here. For the life of me, I forgot. Even though I worked for the entire county a couple months. And then you have the University of California. These are what are called census designated places. So they're not really important for me on this particular task. But you can also click labels, and you can click particular areas that you want to add on to your slide. I'm going to go across the tools here. You have the hand, so you can move. Clearly, you can use plus or minus to increase or decrease. You can start seeing, if you have a mouse that will advance, enlarge or decrease the size, you can do the same thing. With this plus and minus, we start seeing what the city looks like from a bird's eye view, and we get lower and lower and lower as we're landing with our parachute. The next one is a paintbrush. The paintbrush comes in different sizes. I recommend you use the smallest size. It's easier to have errors if you use a larger size. And then the next one is an eraser. So you can always erase what you just did. So now I'm ready to draw. So I'm going to zoom back out, and I want to draw District 1 as my first district. Well, because I've been working with the city of Merced's districts for so long, I know that District 1 right now is over here. So to create the least amount of disruption for everybody involved in this process, I'm going to respect how the current district numbering systems and their geographic locations are for the purposes of this exercise. So you see these lines here. This is critical, folks. I can't say this enough. If you're going to draw maps using Dave's redistricting, if I were to take the paintbrush, it's going to click all of that area, which is great. But this is based on precincts, voter precincts, not census blocks. And if you remember from the beginning of the workshop, I mentioned maps are drawn using census blocks. You can use these, but in all likelihood, you're going to have difficulty in getting equal population with your 6 districts. So I'm going to erase these. I'm going to show you how you do it with census blocks. Right here, you go county, city, precinct, or block. You click on block, and you're saying, well, where is it? Nothing shows up. When you have your paintbrush and you want to do a particular area, once you click on that area, now the census blocks appear. And you can see, as I mentioned, they're different sizes. And And I want to erase one here, and then I'm going to drill in to show you. See this one right here? That's a census block. And sometimes folks will miss those, like right here. So you have to be really meticulous and say, just like you're doing a piece of art, be proud and meticulous as to your final product. And as I'm doing this, you can see the population numbers are changing. So right now, so far, in what I have selected, I have 768 residents of Merced. Oh, I look over here, I'm still shy 13,681 from the ideal population of 14,447. Additionally, it tells you how many in this particular area are white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander, and it gives you that percentage. These numbers are based on the adjusted census data for California. Then we're looking over here when we're looking at either supporting the protected class and making sure we're not diluting the voting strength of the protected class. It shows us here how that citizen voting age population number is turning out. And so far, just what I've done, of the 326, the citizen voting age population is 46% white, 40.8% Hispanic, etc. So as you go through this process and you're coloring through and getting your districts, you just want to be really cognizant of making sure that you use census blocks, and you want to do another district. You want to start and do another district. And remember, we're on census blocks, and I know this is District 2 down here, but if you really drilled into this, you can see it's got some really interesting census blocks, and they're very easy to miss. So you have to remember that when you're going through this process. I'll show you one of the areas that some folks have had difficulty with is right here in this particular area, this triangle area. It's hard to make sure that we are contiguous. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more to make sure we are contiguous. And we can't be contiguous if we're just meeting at a point, and we can't be contiguous if we're separating a color. A district has to stay together. Give you an example, if I were to say start a new district right here, I need to get my paintbrush, etc. I did the airport, and I thought, oh, this is really nice. And then you said, oh, this would be great for District 2. And you just start painting in District 2. And I'm going to zoom out. That would not be contiguous because you have a green area down here and a purple area is splitting it. So these are kind of little things that you need to take into consideration when you're drafting maps. One final thing before you do the saving and all that is there's an arrow, this part up here, upper right-hand area, it's a share map tool. And this is probably the most important piece, because if you don't share this with the city clerk, we will not know it's there. So you click it, and then you have the URL for your map. And you'll want to copy this, and then you're going to want to email that to the city clerk. And then the city clerk will send that to me, and I will process it, and it'll be put into the mix for the commission in this case, and then city council after the commission disbands January 22nd. That concludes the training portion of Dave's redistricting. I'd be happy to answer any questions before we close the night, before I hand it over to the city manager.
Mr. Harris?
Jeff, Mike Harris again. Can you go back to the spreadsheet that had the results page?
Mike, are you talking about the Excel spreadsheet
Yes.
or the Dave's Redistricting?
Yes,
Which one?
the Excel one.
Okay.
The table from Dave's Redistricting, Mr. Harris, is that what you're referring to?
No, the city's Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, you mean from the overall population
Right.
from the census? Okay. In the PowerPoint, Jeff.
Oh, in the PowerPoint. Okay. Pardon me, folks. I'm getting there.
I think you'll have to.
This one right here, Mr. Harris. I know there it is.
Yeah, well, if you click on the Excel spreadsheet part, or if you have that on your presentation.
Yeah, those links aren't live, but I have it on here. It
No,
should
it's
pop up now.
it's the PowerPoint slide with the census data. Correct, Mr.
That's
Harris?
when, go to the results tab. That's the one. Okay.
Yeah, it's your census data. There we go.
So your total on the right-hand side, which is your difference between the absolute value of the lowest district and the highest district, should be within 10%, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, the Supreme Court says that if it's within 10%, it's presumed to be constitutionally correct. But it's not an absolute. If you have a good reason, you can go over that 10%, right?
I'm not in position to.
So that would be more of a legal question. Yeah. Jeff, can you go back to the criteria slide in your PowerPoint for us? Let's go through that.
Sure.
So, I mean, to your point, Mr. Harris, there are gives and takes in terms of the interpretation of the law.
Mhm.
These criteria have been established as best practices to fall within the law. If you want to submit a map that's outside of the 10% deviation and you include a justification to our consultant, that will be noted and presented to the committee for consideration.
Sure. I mean, my point is basically District 6 is getting an influx of population. There's some annexations, there's clear growth there. It would make sense if there was a map that had a difference in District 6 being lower with the anticipation of population coming in, that be considered. That's all I was going to say is, are they
To
open
your
to that?
point, we have to make decisions on map and district boundaries based on the data we have today, not on the future possibility of growth, which could actually outpace or happen later than the next census too, right? If we
Right.
look at Bellevue Ranch, that was actually adopted and entitled 20 years ago. And so I would want to caution this committee to be mindful of making decisions based on data we have today versus the potential of future change. And all of that would also take into consideration infill projects within other districts too. So it's hard to balance what we don't know, but we know we can balance what we do know. So we should be mindful of that.
Right. I mean, there's a line there that, there's things in the process, which you know, of course, about annexations and the UC and things coming in that, if we were to go to, say, 11%, would that be something that would be justifiable? I think if it's justifiable, then
But again, you're basing your justification off of an anticipated change in population versus a population that's a known fact today. So I think that is something from a legal perspective that I don't know if it would be considered justification. It's certainly something you as a citizen could propose to the committee, but it wouldn't meet our best practices. And it is something like I've shared that, the annexation of the UC doesn't necessarily change the population of registered voters.
right.
And the development of housing projects, we assume will change our population, but we don't know what the makeup of those registered voters will be. So we need to be very mindful that we're not making decisions based on what we assume will be, but yet on the facts that we have before us.
Okay, I just wanted to get the view of whether or not that was a hard and fast, and it sounds like it is.
I think from a litigation perspective, you're better to deal with facts you know than to anticipate things that may come.
Well, and as the Supreme Court said, if it's a 10%, it's presumed. So you're on
Right.
solid ground that way.
You are there. And again, like we've shared in the past with annexations, if they change the population earlier than that 10%, then that triggers the need to redo this process based on the change in population of the annexation at the time.
That's a good point. The redistricting doesn't have to wait 10 years, does it?
No. So if we do an annexation of a populated area and it does change the population total of the city, that triggers statutorily the requirement for the
Right.
city to do this process.
Then you get to do this all over again.
Absolutely. Those two properties in question actually don't have a population at this point in time, so it technically wouldn't trigger, which would allow for growth to happen naturally and fold into this process.
Right.
So that would be the difference there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
You're very welcome. Thanks for participating, Mike.
Well, with that, if there are no other questions, if you have any questions you'd like to share or ask of Jeff after the meeting, we'd be happy to direct you to emails or put you in contact with Jeff as our consultant. But tonight was just a workshop to share how to use our tools and what those criteria are. And again, our public hearing will be on January 22nd here at Council Chambers. And we will potentially have more options for virtual participation in that meeting due to the recent Omicron surge that we're experiencing here locally.
And just for future reference too, this PowerPoint that was presented tonight will also be added to the website tomorrow. So then if you do want to review that PowerPoint, it'll be available for you. I would say give me until like the afternoon to get it on there, but it will be on there tomorrow. So just be on the lookout for that. And any other future redistricting information, if it's at a meeting, it will be added to the website the next day. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.